Have you ever been completely taken aback by someone else's actions or felt deeply offended by their behavior? Well, today we're going to talk about why some things seem to hit harder than other things and how we can learn to reframe our own thoughts to not only move past it, but to also help us become more understanding and less reactive to other people's behavior. Stick around. Welcome back. My name's Nena and I'm a life coach that specializes in personal development. Here at this channel we talk all about our emotional well-being, understanding our own psychology, and leading our best life possible. So if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected. So I'm sure we have all experienced this probably on multiple occasions, but let's go ahead and get a clear definition for what it really means to be offended by something. So this is when we feel resentful, hurt, or annoyed, and it's usually because of some kind of perceived insult. And when we start to become offended, it actually causes a lot of internal suffering for us, especially if we start ruminating over it. So today we're talking specifically about when we feel that someone's behavior or actions has personally offended us as opposed to someone's viewpoint or political or religious stance. Now the first thing that we have to realize is whether we like it or not, or whether we choose to think of it this way or not, being offended actually is a choice. Now it is not a choice that we generally consciously make. It's usually an unconscious kind of knee-jerk reactions that we make for a variety of reasons. So one of the most common reasons is that we feel that the person involved did not act in the right way, that there was a clear way they should have acted and they didn't do that. So we could feel that they are immoral or that they are a bad person in some way, but we are placing some kind of judgment on their behavior. Now the second reason is also very common, and that is that we feel that they made some kind of incorrect judgment about us. So in this case, our ego is threatened, our self-concept is on the line. So we feel that there was some kind of blow to our image. We are upset that someone could question some aspect about us. And when this is the case, it can be especially hurtful when it touches upon something that we're either really sensitive about or something that we really value very highly. So for example, if it's something that we're sensitive about, maybe we put on a couple pounds and someone made a comment that has to do with our weight, and we feel just really sensitive about that and we get offended because it's something that we are ourselves feeling insecure about. It can also feel especially painful when we feel that someone is questioning something that is so integral to our character. Let's say it's honesty. If someone is questioning our honesty and we really pride ourselves on being upfront and honest all the time, it can feel very threatening because it's something that we so highly value. I know in my own case, being a kind person is something that is so integral to my character and something that I find very, very important in life. So when I feel that people don't think that I am a kind person or question my motives or my actions, I tend to be more offended about that because it's something I care about so much than if someone, had something negative to say maybe about my finances or how I dressed or something like that. Now, it just depends on the person on what they are going to feel offended about because we all value very different things. Another thing that can make people feel offended is when we act in a way that is unexpected or doesn't seem to be in alignment with how they perceive us to be. So maybe they prefer a different version of ourselves, or maybe they are unaccepting that we have made changes in our life or that our personality actually seems different than it did before. But either way, people tend to make assumptions on how they think we will behave or how they think that we will think, and when that doesn't match their expectations, that can cause problems as well. Another thing that can happen is that we acted in a way that is different than that person feels that they would have acted had they been in that same situation. So there is a feeling that there is one correct, good, right way to do something, and we did not do it in that way. And the last thing that can happen is that we feel that someone else put their own needs in front of our needs, which can make us feel insignificant or unimportant. And it can lead us to feel that their behavior was thoughtless or inconsiderate. So therefore, we feel offended. We have to understand that firstly, whenever we are offended by the actions of other people, we are judging them in some way. We had an expectation or need that they did not fulfill. When we think about someone else's actions, we are always looking at them through the lens of how we feel we would have behaved in that situation, which is understandable. But there are a few problems that come up when we try to do that. The first thing is that although we tend to think that everybody thinks the same way that we do, it's not true at all. We all have very unique and different perspectives. We have different life experiences, different thoughts, different needs, different baggage, different hurts, different issues, and we were all taught differently to begin with. Our understanding of how someone else is feeling is always going to be limited and incomplete. And the second issue is simply that it is usually completely wasted time and energy to be offended, because no matter how much we do not like their behavior or their thoughts, it is unrealistic to think that we could ever change their perspective or actually change how they act. Now, it does happen occasionally, but that is certainly not something we can actually bank on. So what is the solution? The first thing, and the most important thing probably, is to understand our own feelings. Way more important than what the other person did is figuring out why it hurt so bad for us. What did it threaten? What are we so sensitive about, and why? Really getting to the root of what the issue is for us is going to help us to be able to be more in control of our reactions and our emotions, because we will understand those feelings. The second thing we have to understand is how they acted has almost nothing to do with us and pretty much everything to do with them. It is their life, it is their motivation, it is their issues or hurt or character weaknesses if they have them. But either way, it really is on them and not us, because we can never control the thoughts or behavior of other people. We could educate them, we could try to show them different alternatives, but in the end, really it is up to the other person how they choose to think or behave. The third thing that we have to remember is that we ourselves are not living up to other people's expectations. So even though we feel that these people did not live up to our expectations, the rest of the world has expectations of us, yet we do our own thing. We have to remember that as a general rule, people aren't out trying to get us. Yes, it could happen, but it is highly unlikely. They might be protecting their own ego or making decisions that we don't really understand or like, but everyone is human and no person is perfect. The fourth thing that we can do is extremely helpful, and that is to try our best to see the situation through the eyes of the other person. Now, of course, that is not entirely possible, but we can put effort into trying at least, because we always tend to think that people are coming at the situation in the same way that we would, or from the same mindset, and that is never true, of course. Sometimes this is the only way to really resolve conflict, and we're never going to have a full picture of what someone else is going through or what's going on behind the scenes in their own life, but we can accept that there are unknown variables and there is always going to be a reason for their behavior. Negative behavior is almost always coming from a place of pain. So we have to understand that. Again, we're not going to always know what that other person is going through. Maybe they're keeping it private. We have no idea, but it's human nature to automatically assume the worst case scenario or assume the worst out of other people. But if we could instead come at the thought process from a place of love and trying to understand what they could possibly be going through, that's going to help us feel a lot less offended. And the fifth thing to remember is that our own happiness simply can't rely on the thoughts, opinions, or behavior of any other person. If that is the case, we will consistently get hurt throughout our life, because expectations certainly don't always lead to the results that we want. So when we keep these things in mind, we're going to experience much less suffering. It is so important that we truly learn to bring the focus back to our own selves, because that is the only thing that we can control. Maybe we can spend hours and hours trying to figure out why someone said that or why someone did that. And yes, we should try to see things from their perspective, but what really matters is that we are living up to our own standards on a day-to-day basis. So what matters is that we are looking at our own morals, at our own goals, at our own values, and that we are trying our best to be in alignment with those things and worrying a lot less about how other people are acting. Again, we can't walk in their shoes. We don't know exactly how they are thinking and how they are feeling, so we will never be able to fully explain their behavior. But when we instead turn that focus inward, we can start to look at the things that are triggers for us and that make us feel vulnerable, and we can start to heal those areas in our life. So if we notice that we tend to be offended by certain things, we can try to figure out why and try to really address those issues so they become a lot less problematic for us. And remember also, in the same way we don't really want to judge other people, we don't want to judge ourselves either. We need to be patient and loving with our own selves. And yes, sometimes we are going to get offended, but we can work ourselves through this process, and hopefully these strategies will be very helpful and useful to you. So I would love to hear your comments about that. Go ahead and leave them below. I always love to hear your insight. And I truly hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please like it, share it with someone else who may need to hear the same message today. Also, again, if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected. And I thank you so much for spending time with me today. Have an absolutely amazing day.